Imagine a world where music is not freedom, but a trap. Want to listen to your favorite song? Hey, can't. Go pirate. And every tune had a tinge of guilt. It was 2006. And then, in a small room in Stockholm, a crazy idea was born to open music to the world. But no one believed it was possible. It's funny to say, but at the very beginning, Spotify was almost doomed. Without money, without support, with hundreds of closed doors. Its creator, Daniel Ek, was perceived as a dreamer trying to go against the music industry, against the giants that had held power for decades. It looked not just difficult, but hopeless. And this is where our story begins. It is unpredictable. In it, every crisis becomes an explosion, every failure a turning point, every defeat a step towards triumph. It is a story where a small dream almost died 100 times, but in the end changed the way we listen to music forever. And today we're not just talking about the company. We're talking about a man who challenged the world, and a team that proved that the impossible is possible until someone tries. And by the end, you'll realize that this story is as much about you as it is about Spotify. 2006, Stockholm. Outside the window is a quiet northern city, and in one old apartment something is being born that will change the world. The room is cramped, the walls are a little shabby, the air is filled with the smell of coffee and cheap cigarettes. On the table is a laptop, its screen glows with pale letters of code, and in front of it sits Daniel Ek, a young, balding programmer whom no one knew at the time. He looks at the monitor, and in his head is a question on which his whole life may depend. Is it possible to open music to the whole world? At that time, music was a closed fortress. Either you paid a lot of money for a CD or a download on iTunes, or you went to pirate sites, risking breaking the law. Millions of people did just that, downloading illegal files because there was no other way. It was a world where music was more of a business than a freedom. And that's when Daniel decided to challenge the system. His idea sounded crazy. What if music was always available? Legally, free or almost free. You just press a button and it plays. To the industry, it sounded like a provocation, almost an insult. But to him, it was a chance to change everything. The problem was something else. He was practically alone. His friends shook their heads in skepticism. Someone said, "It's impossible. The labels will destroy you." Others warned, "You'll spend money and be left with nothing." And yet he began to assemble a team. Imagine a few guys in a too-closed room, with no money, no experience in the music business, but with a sparkle in their eyes. Their office sign was so small and inconspicuous that even the neighbors didn't know who they were. But that's where Spotify was born. In a city that didn't yet know it would become the launching point of a global music revolution. Sometimes he would sit up at night, look at the code, and ask himself, what if they're right? What if this is nonsense? And every time he would answer, what if they're not? It was the beginning, uncertain, doubtful, like a game of poker where all the cards were against you. But even then there was something special in the air, a dream that smelled of fresh coffee and sounded like the soft click of keys on a laptop. It was a dream that didn't yet know that it would become music for the whole world. Yesterday they were sitting in their small room in Stockholm, and today the world had thrown their first big barrier at them. The major labels, the same ones that had controlled the music industry for decades, had flatly refused. "It's impossible," they said in cold voices, looking through presentations and rubbing their chins. Daniel Ek and his team sat across from them, trying not to show how much it had hit them. But inside their hearts burned doubts that were hard to hide. The images of these negotiations remained in my memory forever. Dead doors that wouldn't open, a Bluetooth call that went unanswered, cold offices with huge posters of popular artists who seemed unreachable. Sometimes it seemed like the whole world was against them. There was almost no money. Investors nervously reviewed budgets. Every day counted, and time literally slipped through their fingers. At night, when the room was empty, Daniel would sit alone, stare at the screen, and ask himself, are we on the right track? Is this a pipe dream? It's easy to lose faith when the whole world says no. Sometimes it seemed like the meaning of this struggle was dissolving within the cold walls of the offices. But it is in these moments that true strength is born. Each rejection did not break them, but challenged them. Each closed door pushed them to look for new moves, unconventional strategies, solutions that no one had tried before. Belief in the idea became their fuel. They knew, if they gave up now, music would remain closed, and they would be another group of failed dreamers. And then the first glimmers appear. New contacts, small labels willing to take a chance. Brief coffee shop talks, nights spent negotiating with managers' trembling voices, and suddenly someone says, "Okay, let's try." It's not a big victory, but it's a glimmer of hope that can burst into flames. The team understood, rejections are not the end. They become lessons. They teach to boldly seek new paths, to turn the system upside down. It was when the world rejected them that they learned to look for unconventional solutions. It was then that a strategy was born that would change everything and allow the small team from Stockholm to go up against the giants of music. It was a moment when doubt met faith, and faith won. And although many didn't believe in them at the time, it was that faith that became the wings on which Spotify began its flight. After months of rejection and behind closed doors, the first victory came. Not a big one, but one that lit a fire in the hearts of Daniel and his team. A few small labels agreed to take the risk and make their music available. To the world, it was nothing, a small step. But to the Spotify team, it was a breakthrough. Imagine the first launch in Sweden, an old office, computers, wires, constant server crashes, and the first users appearing like shadows in a night room. They pressed buttons, listened to songs, and couldn't believe that it was legal, free, and immediately. Some laughed, some cried. Real emotions from music that had previously been inaccessible. It was a stark contrast. A small room in Stockholm against the vast world of music. A few dreamers against an industry that had dictated the rules for decades. And that contrast energized them. Every new user sign-up, every message that "this is changing the way you listen to music," was like a breath of fresh air after a long winter. But the real challenge was yet to come. Servers were crashing, there was still not enough money for development, and competitors were not sleeping. Every new step could be fatal. So the team learned quickly. They tested interfaces, changed the design, listened to every user comment as if it were worth its weight in gold. The first small victory brought another lesson. User trust is more important than any money or big deals. People began to feel respected, that they were given the freedom to listen to music without barriers. And this became the magnet that would later attract millions. Sometimes they would return to the same old room and laugh at how far away these dreams had seemed just a few months ago. But each success emphasized one thing. Every small step forward was the beginning of a great revolution. And though the world didn't know it yet, Spotify was already preparing to go further, into territory where risk would become the norm and failure would only fuel new ideas. It was the moment when the team first felt the true power of their dream, when belief in an idea turned into user trust, and a small victory became the foundation for a grand future. And it was from this moment that the path to the transformation that would soon change everything, both the world of music and the lives of millions of listeners, began. Spotify was already well established in Sweden, but the team knew that to change the music world, they had to go further. Entering Europe wasn't just a new market. It was a leap into the unknown, a step into a zone where giants already set the rules. Apple and iTunes, pirate sites, decades of control, all of this created a wall that seemed impossible to break through. And then came an idea that could either save them or destroy them. The freemium model. Free for everyone, with added benefits for those willing to pay. It sounded like a risk that could cost them their reputation, their money, and everything they had already built. Imagine the scene. A team is meeting in a small office, eyes burning with tension. On the table are cups of unfinished coffee. On the board are diagrams, numbers, and ideas that seemed absurd a minute ago. Fiery arguments. How can we give everything for free? We'll just give away our work. And if we don't, our competitors will simply eat us up. Either we change everything, or we won't exist. This strategy was a transformative moment. It transformed Spotify from a mere music service into a movement, a platform that could connect people through music and trust. Every step toward freemium was a test of courage. Every yes to a label agreeing to new terms was a small victory against skepticism and fear. The scenes from that meeting were etched in the team's memory forever. Voices crossing, walls covered in notes, moments of silence when everyone understood that the decision they were making would change everything. And it worked. When the first users saw that they could listen to their favorite music for free, the reaction was explosive. Trust turned into loyalty, and users became ambassadors for the idea. It was the moment Spotify stopped being just an app. It became a symbol of a new generation of listeners who felt free and in control of their own music. The freemium model didn't just save the company. It changed the game for the entire market. The risk turned out to be the right decision, and the team learned an important lesson. To change the world, sometimes you have to take a bold step that no one understands except you. From that moment on, Spotify wasn't just competing for the market. It was shaping the rules, and every user click, every new sign-up, every song played was proof that a small room in Stockholm had created more than a service. It had created a movement. 2011, time to step onto the big stage, and not just any stage, but America. New York, a city where competitors had stood for decades, where the music industry dictated the rules, where any mistake could cost everything. And it was here that Spotify had to prove that a small team from Stockholm could change the world. Huge barriers stood at every turn. Labels that had controlled the rights for years set conditions that seemed impossible. Competitors like Apple Music and iTunes watched every move, ready to destroy any risky start. But Daniel Ek and his team didn't just move forward. They moved with the belief that music should be accessible. Imagine the moment of the first official launch. Times Square, a crowd of people, cameras, the hum of voices, and the click of computers. People try the service, laugh, be surprised, laugh at the fact that music appears instantly, without restrictions. Every user who registered that day was like a little soldier in the great revolution of musical freedom. The support of stars and influential investors gave the team confidence. But even with this help, the risks remained enormous. One wrong decision, and the whole breakthrough could crumble. Every day was a struggle. Every new song that a listener clicked on was proof that the freemium strategy works even in the most competitive environment. Spotify became a symbol of a new generation. Music always with you, in your pocket, available instantly, without the boundaries and rules of the old industry. Young people in New York listened to the same song as a boy in a small village in India. It was the moment when music became a global experience that brought people together without asking for a passport or a credit card. The growth was explosive. Millions of users, new countries, new cultures, new markets. Spotify became more than just a service. It became a platform, a movement, and a cultural phenomenon. The team in Stockholm, who had once sat in a small room and feared that everything was useless, now looked out at the world that was changing with them. It was a breakthrough that no one expected, not even those who worked on it every day. But it was through faith, the courage to take risks, and the willingness to break the rules of the old industry that Spotify became a global giant. And that was just the beginning of the next big challenge: maintaining leadership while remaining a movement that people love and care about. The global breakthrough brought fame and millions of users, but with it came new challenges. Spotify found itself at the center of a fierce battle for the music market. Apple Music, Amazon, YouTube, all wanted the same thing they had created. The competition was ruthless, and every step could be the last. Add to this another drama. Artists began to ask questions that pushed the team to the limit. "We deserve fair fees," was the cry from all sides. Scandals erupted on social networks and in newspaper headlines. Rallies of musicians, public disputes. All this created an atmosphere in which any mistake could cost users trust and the company's reputation. The images of these crises linger in the memory. The big headlines in Times Square and on the internet. The The protesters' banners, the team's late-night office gatherings as they watch the news and think, how do we respond? How do we maintain a balance between artists and audiences? Each conflict was like a slap in the face. Unpleasant, sharp, but teaching endurance. And it was in these moments of crisis that Spotify learned to adapt. The team looked for new formats, new ways to grow. And here the next revolution was born. Podcasts, original content, new audio formats. They stopped being just a music service. They became a platform that gives people stories, knowledge, and community. It was a bold step into the unknown, but it was what allowed Spotify to stay ahead. Every crisis became fuel for innovation. They learned that leadership is not just about growing users, but about listening to the world and reacting faster than others. Difficult negotiations with artists, public conflicts, and headlines all became part of the lesson that taught the team to think outside the box, but boldly and unconventionally. Spotify has learned to turn challenges into opportunities. Every scandal has been a test of courage, every new feature a proof that they are not afraid to change the rules of the game. And that is what has made the company not just a music service, but a global cultural phenomenon that continues to influence the lives of millions of listeners. It was a battle for the future, and Spotify was fighting not just for the market, but for its right to remain a symbol of musical freedom, innovation, and trust. And while the dangers remain, the team knows that it is the courage to take risks and constantly explore new paths that makes them stronger than any competitor. Today, Spotify is not just a service. It's hundreds of millions of people around the world listening to music at the same time, feeling an invisible connection to each other. Imagine a boy in a small village in India hearing a newly released song for the first time, and a girl in New York listening to the same tune at the same moment. Different cultures, different continents, different languages, and music unites them instantly. A dream that was once born in a cramped room with an old laptop and the smell of coffee has become a reality. Music now has no borders. It is always there, in your pocket, on your computer, in your headphones. Every click, every new user registration, every minute of listening is proof that belief in an idea can overcome any barriers, any skeptical voices, any obstacles. But Spotify doesn't stop there. The company looks to the future and sees new horizons. The development of artificial intelligence allows it to personalize the listener's experience, predict their tastes, and offer music they haven't heard yet that instantly becomes their favorite. It's more than a service. It's an innovative platform that helps people feel like they're part of something bigger. The images of the future are impressive. Virtual concerts, interactive podcasts, shared playlists for friends from different parts of the world, music communities that unite people by interests, emotions, and mood. Each new feature is yet another proof that music unites people, and technology becomes a tool for this unity. Spotify's belief that music is more than just sound, but a language that unites humanity, makes the company a symbol of a new generation. It reminds us that true innovation is not just about technology, but about the ability to create life-changing experiences. Today, the team from a small room in Stockholm looks out at the world and knows their dream has become a global movement. And even if tomorrow new competitors, new challenges, or unforeseen problems appear, they know music will always find a way to the human heart. They have learned to turn doubts into faith, crises into opportunities, dreams into reality. Spotify shows that true success is the courage to change, to move forward, and to believe that one click of a button can unite the whole world. This story is not just about Spotify. It's about all of us. About how one idea born in a small room can change the world. About how believing in a dream is stronger than any rejection or because true success is not just about money or millions of users. True success is the courage to believe when everyone says no. It is the ability to move forward, even when the risks are huge and it seems like the whole world is against you. It is the willingness to turn crises into opportunities, doubts into. Spotify has taught us one key lesson. Even if the beginning is cramped and dark, Even if the doors are closed and there is no money, if the faith is strong and the dream is clear, then it is impossible. And that's why this story is about each of us. Because true success is the courage to change and move forward despite everything. It's about believing in an idea, in people, in the future. And if Daniel Ek hadn't dared to take the first step, we would never have felt the magic of music. So remember, your idea can change the world. Even if it says no, even if you're scared, even if it seems like all the odds are against you. Start small, dream big, and move forward. Because one bold idea can create a revolution.